Lesson number 5, Attendance Tracking Module. Generating QR codes. First, it's worth noting that the features demonstrated in the previous lessons are enough to start using the Bolt School Management software. At this point, your skills are enough to remotely enroll students, receive the enrollment paperwork, and process the needed documents for a student applying at your school. The system provides an opportunity for school managers to interact with applicants and students, and is also equipped with analytical tools which give you the ability to create various types of reports. However, these are just the basic functional features of the software. Bolt School Management software is much more than just basic functionality. This lesson is on the advanced features of the Bolt software. Here, we will introduce you to tracking students' attendance hours. For this, you will need to log into the system with your administrator access. Go to the student list in the Quick Access toolbar. Note the TTT column, which is located to the left of the student's outstanding balance. TTT is an abbreviation we use to refer to total training time or the total hours a student has attended the school. The purpose of this tool is to track and keep a daily record of each student's attendance at the school, with reference to the location, if your school uses multiple locations. The TTT column is updated in real time with the student's total attendance hours at the school as soon as their student ID badge has been scanned at the beginning of the day. All the students we are viewing have 0 hours tracked as they are newly enrolled into the system. It is also important to note that the attendance tracking feature is dependent on the type of training the student chose when enrolling. The student has the option to choose part-time or full-time training when signing the enrollment agreement. The school manager can also change the type of training from the student's profile at any time based on what is provided by your school. However, this will change the enrollment agreement. The training options should be discussed with the student at the time of enrollment so that the correct option is selected prior to signing enrollment agreement. Differences between full-time and part-time attendance, as well as their features, will be reviewed later in this lesson. If you will be using Bolt Software's attendance tracking module, the first thing you need to do is generate QR code badges for your students. To do this, go to the student list, check the QR box next to the name of the student for whom you want to generate a badge. You can select an individual student or even an entire group of students at once. Let's select all our students as an example. Next, click on the button to generate QR codes that located below the Quick Access toolbar. The system does not automatically generate QR codes, only upon your request. The actual code will be placed at the bottom of the student ID badge. The badge also contains your school name, student's name, their student ID number, as well as the training program. This is done so that an instructor can quickly determine what type of evaluation to use when assessing a student's behind-the-wheel driving skills. The Bolt logo on a standard student ID badge can be replaced with your school logo upon request. To print the badges, simply use your system's standard print wizard or shortcut, Control-P on Windows or Command-P on Macs. If the print preview does not display the badges, this means that you have default print settings without background graphics selected. Click on the settings, select the Print Background Graphics option, and the code will have appeared and is now available to print. The system is set up to print 5 badges to a row. The print area is specified for A4/letter format, but you can change this by selecting a different paper size, changing the margins or scale. Configure the page to your desired settings and start printing. The badges are now ready to be distributed to students. I will briefly describe how the attendance tracking module. Prior to beginning class at the school, the students must first come into the office to scan their badge. They will present the badge to an employee of the school, the badge is scanned, and the scan time is recorded in the system. Prior to leaving for the day, the students must once again come into the office to scan their badges to record an end time to the training session. The system then calculates the difference between the arrival time and departure time, recording the sum as the total training time or TTT. Here are several things to keep in mind. The the system is programmed in such a way that if a student is enrolled as part-time status, then they will only be allowed to clock out if 4 hours have passed or after 6 hours for full-time status students. However, this is only an issue if student leaves the school campus and returns at a later time to continue the training session. Here is an example. A student is scheduled to drive in the morning, then later in the evening of the same day. The system will not allow this student to clock out if 4 hours have not passed since the arrival of the student for part-time students and 6 hours for full-time students. If this feature is not useful for your school, then contact our IT team and they will turn off this feature. If a student forgets to clock out at the end of the day, the system automatically adds 4 or 6 hours to their TTT respectively. In order to begin scanning the QR codes, the school manager must first be logged into the Bolt system on the device that will be used for scanning the badges. The manager can use a phone, tablet, laptop or computer, or use the device's camera directly, or use a separate QR code reader app. It doesn't matter how the QR code is scanned. Again, it's important to remember to log into Bolt on that device before you begin scanning. If geolocation is enabled in the browser settings of the device used, then the Bolt system will record the coordinates of latitude and longitude so that in the future this information can be accessed and you can verify where the clock in or clock out was created. Geolocation is carried out using Google Maps. If location permissions have not been enabled for the particular browser you are using, then your device may prohibit the use of its geolocation when the badge is scanned. This can be changed by selecting the privacy settings in your device and enabling location services for your browser. This is an extra security feature provided by Bolt software and can be used at the discretion of the school owner. After scanning the QR code, the system performs two functions. A student's TTT will increase, and the student will appear in the INs list. Students who have had their badges scanned upon arrival will appear in the INs list, which is the main area of interaction between the instructor and the student. This is comparable to the student list for the office staff. Upon scanning the QR code, the student becomes visible to instructors and gives them the ability to perform evaluations and testing. Accordingly, after clocking out, an instructor is no longer able to access the student's profile. We will demonstrate the features of the INs list in greater detail in the next lesson. Please note that our system stores the entire history of every scanned clock-in or clock-out event and can be edited from the specific student's profile using the admin's account if necessary. The students can only view the recorded hours and their total training time. If the manager changes the student's hours, then the school manager's digital key will be placed in the geolocation field. This way it is possible to monitor the manual changes a manager makes to the attendance record of a particular student. In conclusion, the total training time is one of the most important tools for tracking student training hours at the school. It appears in most reports created when submitting student information to the state, and is an indicator of when a student is ready to be scheduled for external testing to receive their commercial driver's license.